The next topic is going to be negative exponents. So the goal here is to simplify expressions involving these negative exponents, with the idea being that our end goal is going to be polynomials. So some rules about exponents in addition to the ones we've already done. Just to recall, if you don't remember, the rules that we already done involved multiplying with the same base. So when we were multiplying with the same base, we had a to the m times a to the n was a to the m plus n. You added the exponents. We had division. So a to the m divided by a to the n was a to the m minus n. That's where you subtracted. And we had a to the m to the n was a to the m times n. You multiplied the two exponents. We also had that a, b to the m. You could distribute that exponent, but only if it was multiplication or division. So a to the m divided by b to the m. So we had all those last time. This time, though, we're going to have a to the 0 equals 1. So that's anything. Doesn't matter what you're looking at. If you have something to the 0 power, it's automatically going to be 1. Next, we have a to the negative m. What that means is 1 over a to the m. And then vice versa, 1 over a to the negative m is going to be a to the m. Basically, whenever you have a negative exponent, so let's say that I have a star here, and I'm raising it to the negative heart. Because it's a negative exponent, that means put it under a fraction. But in the same way, if I want to move something, if I want to move this back to the top, just change the sign of the exponent. Every time you move something from the top to the bottom or from the bottom to the top on a fraction, all you do is just change the exponent from either positive to negative or negative to positive. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me give you one more example. Let's say I'm looking at 2 to the negative 3. That's the same as 1 over 2 cubed. Or I could say, what is 1 over 4 squared? Well, if I want to move it to the top, I change the sign. If I want to move it back to the bottom, just change the sign. Every time you move it from top to bottom, you just change the sign of the exponent. And then lastly, a over b to the negative m. So this negative means flip it, and then we're going to distribute the m. So if I have a over b to the negative 1, that means flip the fraction and raise both of them to the power of 1. So a over b to the negative 1 is just b over a. So our first example here, I have a cubed b to the negative 2, c, 2 times d to the negative 1, 3 to the 4th, f squared. So let's see if we can simplify this. So I'm going to start with my coefficients. So I have a 3 to the 4th and a 2 here. So those are going to remain on the bottom. So 2 times 3 to the 4th. Next, though, we want to kind of keep everything with positive exponents. This a cubed, that can stay on the top, so that's good. But that b to the negative 2, I don't like that negative. So if I want it to be a positive, I'll have to move the b to the negative 2 on the bottom, which makes it b to a positive 2. C already has a positive exponent, so I'll leave that alone. D down here, D has a negative exponent, which we don't like, so I'll move it to make it positive. So that means we'll have a D on the top. And then lastly, that f squared already has positive, so we'll leave it there. So my answer is a cubed c times d divided by 2 times 3 to the 4th b squared f squared. Now let's look at this one. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm first going to look at my coefficients. So I have a 4 here, a 3 here, and a 6 here. So 4 times 3 is 12. So I have a 12 on top, a 6 on the bottom. 12 divided by 6 is 2. So again, if you're wondering where that came from, it was 4 times 3 over 6, which was 12 over 6, which is 2. Next, let's look at my x terms. So x to the negative 5, x to the 3, and x to the minus 5. On the top, I will be adding those coefficients. So I have x to the negative 5 plus 3. but then the x to the negative 5 is on the bottom, so we'll be subtracting a negative. We'll deal with that in a minute. Next, let's look at my y term. So I have a y here, and a y here. On the top, since I'm multiplying, I'll be adding my coefficients, and then subtract the one that's on the bottom. So let's see what this gives us. So we'll have my 2. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2, minus a negative 5. So that really means plus 5. So I think 3 is going to be our exponent there. Next, I have y to the negative 3 plus a negative 2, which is negative 5, minus 3 is negative 8. Again, we don't really like negative exponents. So if I want to not have that y to the negative 8th, what I can do is just put it on the bottom of a fraction and make it a positive exponent. Now let's do this problem. So 3ab cubed to the negative 2, then ab to the negative 3, divided by 2a to the 4th, a to the negative 4, b to the 0. First thing I'm going to do is this set of parentheses here. Because everything is being multiplied, we can distribute that negative 2. So that'll give me 3 to the negative 2, a to the negative 2, b to the negative 6. That came from the 3 times negative 2. And then everything else I'll leave alone for right now. So 2a to the minus 4, b to the 0. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is let's look at our coefficients. So I have a 3 to the negative 2 and a 2. Well, that 3 to the negative 2, what that really means is 1 over 3 squared, which is 1 over 9. And I already have a 2 on the bottom, so I think that makes us have an 18 on the bottom. Next, let's look at a. So I have a squared, an a on the top, and a to the negative 4 on the bottom. So that's going to give me a to the negative 2 plus 1, that 1's coming from right there, minus a negative 4, because I had a to the negative 4 on the bottom. Now let's deal with my b terms. B to the negative 6, b to the negative 3, b to the 0. But remember, what was b to the 0? Anything to the 0 power is 1. Multiplying by 1 doesn't do anything, so that term might as well not be there. So really I have b to the negative 6 plus that negative 3. So my two exponents that were on top. So let's see what all this kind of boils down to. Looks like I have a to the negative 2 plus 1, and then plus 4. So that looks like 3. Then b to the negative 6 minus 3, so negative 9, divided by 18. Because we don't like negative exponents, I'm going to make that b not have a negative exponent by moving it to the bottom. So a cubed over 18b to the 9th.